Hey, good morning, everybody. It's really cool to be with you again today. It's been lovely being here in Norway, but we'll be home next week. I'm looking forward to seeing you all. We're standing on the highest point in Grimstad right now, and I want you to just capture a beautiful view of that which is taking place around me. We're talking about warfare, particularly spiritual warfare. We're talking about this today. I want to talk about the place of worship in warfare. There seems to be, for some strange reason, a compatibility that exists between worshippers and those who go to war. Have a look biblically. You'll see this all over the place. How the tribe of Judah, which was the worship tribe, would go in right up ahead of the battle and ahead of all the people with all the armaments, and they would go and they would set the atmosphere, they would set the place, they would raise the spirit of the troops as they would march into war. A great example would be Joshua. When Joshua crossed into the promised land and he had to stand against Jericho, this mighty city, and God said, there'll be silence all the time that you walk around for 7 days, not a word to be said. And I often wonder, and I don't think I'm being facetious when I say, I wonder if that silence wasn't to silence the naysayers of the place, saying, oh, Joshua, do we have to fight this war? This is rather strange that we should do that. The people are all standing on the wall and they're laughing at us. Joshua, why the silence? And Joshua just said, shh, people, God is preparing something. Just be quiet. No time for negative talk right now. We're about to go into battle. And then on the last time of the 7th day, Joshua said, okay, people, now let's let rip. And the trumpets blew and the people sang and they shouted in the name of Joshua and of God. And you know what happens? The walls came down and the worshippers fought alongside the warriors. Now, warriorship and warfare are very compatible with worship. I think it's a human thing. I don't think it's just a God Christian thing. I think there are many cultures in the world that recognize the power of good music to restore the soul, to strengthen the soul, to inspire the soul. Just think, if you will, just humanly speaking, of when we go and watch the Springboks play rugby. And one of the most moving and beautiful moments is that moment when we stand together and we sing together our national anthem, and there are tears in the crowd. There's a high sense of anticipation, an incredible sense of emotion as we do that. It's a human thing that our spirits need to be stirred, to be stimulated, to be inspired for the battle that is to come. People, let me tell you, I think sometimes that's why church worship for me is so important. I know some people will come to church and say, come on, let's just do the sermon thing. Let's just do away with the music. Let's do away with the worship. We just want to hear the word. And all I'm going to tell you, I think the word, when it's associated and linked with the worship, is so much more powerful. I tell you, as a preacher, it's always so much easier to preach after you've had a meaningful time of worship. God prepares your hearts for the word. Sometimes the word prepares our hearts for worship. And those of you who have been to our church will notice sometimes that we worship after we've preached, because worship is an integral part of our emotions as we speak to God and tell Him how we feel, share with Him our burdens, and worship the greatness of who He is. People never look down on worship. It's a great place, and God is preparing the atmosphere for us to do what He wants to do amongst us. So warfare and worship, in a biblical sense, are totally compatible. While I'm talking about that, remember the story of Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat was up against it. A whole bunch of kings were trying to steal all his stuff, and they had threatened him. And God said to him, don't panic. Just send your worshippers ahead of me and ahead of you. And Joshua sent the worshippers into battle. And then when the soldiers got there, they saw that in the midst of all the worship, God had done the job for them. There was no enemy left to fight, because the power of worship is just enormous. Now, in your life, make a place for worship music. There's nothing like music to stimulate your soul. There's nothing like music to give you that feeling of just saying, man, I can climb this mountain, I can fight this battle, I can face this enemy. And music, as strange as it may seem, can do the job. That atmosphere of worship is an atmosphere in which God is able to work incredibly. If your home is miserable, for goodness sake, turn the radio, TV off and play some good worship music and watch the atmosphere change. If you have to make big decisions, then just turn off the TV and put on some worship music and create an atmosphere of worship and watch what God did. Elisha did that. They wanted him to tell them the will of God, and he said, bring me a harpist. And in the midst of the worship from that harpist, God was able to speak beautifully into Elisha's mind. Now, people, as much as those guys did it, wouldn't it be cool if we did the same? Try it. You'll see. Have a great day, you people. And look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.